Thank you, Steve. Thanks for coming out. Again, want to thank our fans for the awesome showing in Greenville last Saturday. It was awesome seeing all that garnet and black in the stands, and we're certainly going to need it in Athens on Saturday night. I know our fan base will be ready, and can't wait to see them over there. Again, I want to congratulate Parker White on being the SEC Special Teams Player of the Week. I guess that's 2 weeks in a row we've had a winner from South Carolina on the special teams part. So love that, and love the fact that it's on special teams. And we're going to continue to, or we're going to need that to continue as the game, our season goes on, for sure. Injury-wise, we're in really good shape as it stands here today. No major issues coming out of the East Carolina game. A few, bumps and bruises, but nothing that'll prevent anybody from playing this Saturday. I know you guys will ask about Luke. He was at practice today. He did more today than he did on Sunday, and he did more on this Tuesday than what he did last Tuesday. So the biggest thing with him is just continuing to knock off or get the soreness out where he feels comfortable, and knocking off the rust and all that, because he hasn't been in a lot of 11-on-11 situations against a full defense here for a while. So continuing to progress and get better each and every week, but fully expect him and the rest of our guys to be 100% on Saturday night. The only one that'll be out was one you already knew about, and that's Rick Sandage, but he's moving along well and is right on track to be back hopefully here really soon. Excited to open up SEC play Saturday night. It is the greatest football conference in the world. There's a reason that so many high school recruits want to play in this conference. There's a reason that every coach in the country wants to coach in this conference. There's a reason that two of the premier programs in America wanted to join this conference, and it's what it's all about. I've missed being in the SEC. I've missed playing in 80 and 90,000 and 100,000 seat stadiums like we're going to do here for the rest of the season, and absolutely love the pageantry of college football, and there is no better conference that emulates that or shows that on a day-in, day-out basis than the SEC. But we are certainly not tiptoeing into it. We've got a huge challenge this week with Georgia. Kirby has done an amazing job there in his time of elevating that program to an even higher level than what it already was when he got the job. One of the premier programs in the country, and certainly led by a fantastic coaching staff. Got tons of respect for him. He's a great friend, somebody that made me a better coach in my 2 years working for him. A lot of the things that we do here in this program I took from what we did at Georgia, along with Oklahoma and Virginia Tech and the other stops that I've been. But a lot of it comes from the things that Kirby taught me, and I learned from him, and a fantastic coach and somebody that I have a lot of respect for. You guys know better than me. Many of you have followed SEC football longer than I have, but he probably does have the most talented football team in the history of Georgia football. And that's not an embellishment and coach speak and all of that. When you look at from top to bottom, the 11 that start on offense, the 11 that start on defense, all of their special teams units, the depth they have, the size, the physicality, the speed they have. I hadn't seen them at all because we played obviously the same time they did when we played Eastern Illinois, so I didn't see their game on TV against Clemson. They were playing the same time I think that we were last week against East Carolina, so the first time that I was able to dive into watching them was Sunday once we got started on our game week prep, and wow. There is a reason they were picked to win the SEC East, and the talent just jumps off the tape at you. Obviously, they've had some great players in the past. I've coached against a lot of them: Matthew Stafford and Noshawn Marino and AJ Green and those teams. I was a part of a really talented team that played for the national championship with Roquan Smith and Nick Chubb and Sony Michel and those guys. But when you just look at their starters on all three phases, but then you just look at the backups. I don't know of a more talented team ever to play at Georgia when you when you look at that. I mean, I had read over the summer that the defensive back, the secondary was an area of concern, and all I see are those guys just playing everybody in man coverage, and nobody can complete a pass. I watched their defense. I think they forced 18 punts already this season in 2 games, which, if my math is correct, that's going to put them on pace for over 100, which is an ungodly amount of defensive stops. Like, usually at the end of the season, a defense may force 70 or some punts. They forced an average of 9 the last 2 games. I'm sitting there watching tape all day yesterday, got in at 5:30 in the morning and was all day watching tape like the rest of our coaches, and thought I had thought I had a good feel for the personnel. Then here comes another guy at the end of the game against UAB that's not even listed on their 2 deep, that's making plays that would start a lot of places in the SEC. There's a play where Jordan Davis, their unbelievable defensive lineman, against UAB, where the UAB quarterback runs Jordan Davis for Georgia is outside the hash into the UAB sideline, and the quarterback for UAB starts running towards the Georgia sideline, and the defensive lineman, Davis, all 340 pounds of him, runs the quarterback down and makes the tackle on Georgia's sideline. And it's one of the most amazing individual efforts and plays I've ever seen. So they are really, really good, and will be a big challenge for us. But our guys are certainly excited to go play. We've had a couple of great days of practice, and looking forward to the challenge of going in there against such a talented and well-coached team. So the hype for them is real, and we're excited to go play.
Shane, after watching the Georgia film, I'm sure you saw the Clemson game. How much of a concern is your pass blocking when it comes to Georgia's defensive line?
Yeah, I think a lot has been made of the pass blocking, which is a bunch of crap. Regardless, I've got tons of respect for what PFF says and all that. PFF doesn't much respect for them. They help us. We rely on their stuff. They don't know when our quarterback goes up to the line of scrimmage, makes a protection call to slide the offensive line one way because he thinks the pressure's coming, which means a tackle for us is going to slide one way, and then he realizes that the quarterback guessed wrong, and there's a free guy coming outside of him. So to the average eye, people are going to say, oh, my gosh, what is that offensive tackle doing? That offensive tackle is doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing, and he's trying to take the hit off the quarterback because the quarterback slid the line the wrong way. So have we been perfect on the pass pro? No. Is it as bad as some people want to analyze and say that it's been? Absolutely not. And then so on all of us, quarterback, running backs, receivers, tight ends, offensive linemen. So to answer your question, David, it's a concern every week, but certainly against these guys because they're really good up front, and all you got to do is turn on the tape of the Clemson game, and they're swallowing up Clemson's quarterback, it seems, on every play when he drops back to pass. So it'll be a huge challenge for us, a lot more than what we have faced the last 2 weeks, obviously, but it's like I told our guys this morning, I mean, it's SEC football. There's you better strap it on for the next however many 9, 10 games, 9 SEC games, 8 SEC games that we got here the rest of the season, because it gets real. And if you don't want to play against the best, then you shouldn't be playing in this conference.
You've been pretty forthcoming about the fact that you followed the program from afar. What do you remember about the game against Georgia 2 years ago, watching that from where you were? What were your kind of reactions to that? And do you use that game from 2 years ago as a reminder that, hey, that team was a big underdog as well? You can go in and do something similar.
Yeah, I don't remember much about it. We were playing Texas at the same time that day. I think I may have told some of y'all the story, but our game against Texas, which is an unbelievable game, not to change the subject, but if you ever get a chance to go to that game in the Cotton Bowl, do it. But we were playing Texas, which is a huge rival for us, at Oklahoma. Georgia and South Carolina were playing the same day. We won. Jalen Hurts was our quarterback, had a great win against Texas, and my family runs on the field after the game, and I'm thinking they're going to be excited because we just beat Texas, and swear to goodness, the first words out of my kids and my wife's mouth is, South Carolina just beat Georgia. South Carolina just beat Georgia. And I go, how about Oklahoma just beating Texas? I'm more worried about that one. But that's what I remember about it, and obviously a great win. I don't talk about it. We haven't talked about it. I mean, we may mention it, but to me it has, from a lot of the people are different. The coaching staff here is different for the most part. Some of the players were here that day. Some of them weren't. Obviously, I think our guys know you went over there a couple years ago, and I saw where Kirby said yesterday. A lot of that was because of Georgia. The fact that South Carolina won that game. But again, it doesn't have a big impact, I don't think, on this year's game. I mean, we have talked about the fact that this is a rivalry game, and I've been a part of a bunch of them. And in my time here, whether I was at South Carolina, whether I was at Georgia most recently or South Carolina when I was here before, it seems like they were all close games, high scoring, low scoring, kind of been a part of everything in my time here. But I can remember 2017 when we won the SEC at Georgia. I mean, that wasn't an easy game over in Columbia. I think it was 24-10 or whatever. But I mean, it's a tough physical game. I've followed this rivalry for a while and expect this week to be no different.
Hey, Shane, I know you've been asked about the quarterbacks about 907 times, but this will be the 908th. What is Luke Doty? What are the boxes, really, that Luke Doty has to check over the next couple days for him to make that start on Saturday night? And then I guess the second part is, how much of a factor is the opponent and the defense, just an extraordinary front seven, in making that decision to start a guy who hasn't played yet this year?
Yeah, as far as checking boxes for anybody, you got to have a good week of practice, whether you're the quarterback or the right guard or the personal protector on the punt team. I mean, you got to practice well. We're about competition, and you've got to compete and have a good week of practice, first of all, to put yourself in position. You got to be better than the other guys. Second of all, from a quarterback standpoint, kind of what I said a minute ago, it's being able to go in there and be comfortable and execute and knock the rust off, so to speak, and being able to drop back and throw 7-on-7 pass scale in practice without an offensive line and defensive line is great. You got to be able to also perform when there's 21 other people out there on the field with you, and he's continuing to get better at doing that. But we don't talk about the opponent. Obviously they're really good up front, but who do we play next week? Kentucky. I'm sure I haven't watched them. Watched a little bit of their game against Missouri the other night, but cover that up on y'all, huh? I'm sure they've got a really good front also, and then Troy and Tennessee and on and on and on. So, I mean, I don't see anybody on the schedule that we need to say, well, let's just let this guy get better and rest him up for this week. They're all going to be dogfights starting this week.
Shane, sticking with Luke, I guess just when you mentioned he does more in practice, what does that look like, and how many reps is he taking with 11-on-11 or 7-on-7 today?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was hanging out with the defense over there on their practice on the field today. Luke was out there. He was throwing balls. As far as the exact number of reps and all that stuff, I'm not even sure, to be honest with you. As soon as I walk out of here, I'll go in there with the offensive staff, and we'll watch practice from today. But from meeting with Clint each day, it's kind of, okay, he's going to do these periods and work a little bit more each day. And like I said at the beginning, he did a lot more today than what he did last Tuesday. And last Tuesday at this time, and we expected him to be able to play in Greenville. And he had a little bit of soreness during this time last week. He doesn't have that today. He didn't have that yesterday after practicing Sunday. So he continues to do more and more. And like I said, we fully expect him to be ready to roll on Saturday night. But let's also recognize the fact that Zeb Noland made some fantastic throws down the stretch the other day against East Carolina too. That the throw to DK, the throw to Van in the end zone, the throw to Van that we ended up fumbling. I mean, he made some great plays down the stretch. So Zeb's another one that, like the rest of our team, continues to get better, and our whole football team. I mean, by no means have we arrived anywhere. We've got to continue to get better all across the board, and coaching as well.
Shane, about what you said about not having arrived. I mean, 2-0's, a different feeling for a lot of these guys on this team. How do you keep them grounded? How have they handled the good start that you guys are off to?
Yeah, good question. Certainly we want to celebrate wins, and we will. That was a fantastic win Saturday, so we don't want to not celebrate that. I mean, that was a struggle, and I said it on that. I think I said it on Paul Feinbaum yesterday. A lot of teams would have lost that game across the country because this team had every opportunity to feel sorry for themselves because things weren't going well. So you certainly build upon the fight that we showed. You build upon the fact that in the last 17 minutes we had some fantastic individual efforts and big plays on all three sides. Saw some toughness running the football down the stretch and just the way we came together. You build up on that, but it don't take long to turn on the tape on Sunday and see, no disrespect to East Carolina, but all the stuff that we didn't do right as well. Offensively, defensively, special teams. I mean, it's pretty obvious to our guys we still got a lot to get better at. There's a lot that we could have done better against East Carolina. And then you get through East Carolina and you turn on the tape with Georgia, and it's you realize pretty quick you better, crank it up and get better. And each week that's always going to be the same. I mean, we're going to come in on Sunday, win or lose, and look at the previous game, what we did well. And even when you have a great win, I mean, we go in there as a team meeting and we watch as a team some of the good plays, but then also the not so good plays as well, because I don't want anybody ever feeling complacent. And week to week, we don't spend a lot of time talking about the opponent. It's let's worry about ourselves and let's get ourselves better. And that's what we told them in the team meeting this morning. Like, we've got to be better this week in everything that we do than last week if we want to have any chance to be successful.
Shane, what do you remember about Zeb and how he did against you guys in that 2018 game? And then also, what were your, impressions of what you saw of Luke in the tape you've watched of last year's Georgia game, which was his first start, as you know?
Zeb against Iowa State, Iowa State versus Oklahoma, that it was just, he made some really great throws. If I'm not mistaken, I think going into that game, there was a question on who was going to start at quarterback for Iowa State, if I'm not mistaken, and had a feeling it was going to be Zeb, and I knew of him and just kind of watched him, from a distance and knew who he was, being from Georgia and all that. But then he went out there and went, it was a back and forth game. Kyler Murray on one side and Zeb Noland on the other, but Iowa State had some a talented receiver that I know got drafted that year, a big target, and he did a nice job of just throwing some deep balls to him and some back shoulder fades or deep balls down the sideline, and just kind of went back and forth, and ended up being 37-27. But just remember being impressed with how he sat in the pocket and threw the ball and the accuracy that he threw with. To be totally honest, I haven't watched a snap of it last year. Last year, that South Carolina football team that was out there that night is not indicative, I guess is the word, of the South Carolina football team right now. I know the defensive staff at Georgia is the same. So as we go through the week, you may look at things for certain formations and stuff like that. I watched it on TV. I remember watching it on TV from back at my house in Norman that night, and I knew who Luke was coming out of high school, but just seeing some of the athleticism and things like that he played with that night. But I just there's not a lot of carryover from last year to this year because we're built a little bit different. There's a lot of returning players, don't get me wrong, but we're a little bit different schematically and things like that. And the personnel on defense for Georgia has changed in a lot of ways also, particularly in the secondary.
Shane, with some of the self-inflicted wounds on defense from a penalty standpoint, what's your philosophy on being able to teach that? Is that as simple as, hey, we want you to be able to play with that edge. We like, the days of DJ Swearinger, but, we'll yank you off the field for a couple series. How do you teach that? Because I'm sure it's not as easy as guys just knock it off.
Yeah, it's the $1 million question. I've been some places where the philosophy is you don't talk about it and maybe just kind of goes away by not making a big deal out of it. I've been some places where it was old school and you go out on the practice field and you circle up, and if you had the penalty, you come out in the middle and you're like, I'm Mike Uva and I had a penalty and cost the team 15 yards, and then everybody gets up there and does the up downs. And I've been places where you go in the team meeting and you show every penalty to teach off of it, and Really, we just try. One, we teach off of it as much as we can. What the expectations are and what we're not going to condone. We have officials at practice most days, and we want to educate as much as we can, whether it be formations or, today we had a block in the back during a drill where you get on there and you teach it and you recognize it that this is unacceptable for sure. And that was the disappointing thing about Saturday was obviously did a crap job because we made a big point of emphasis about keeping our poise and composure against East Carolina, and not a shot at East Carolina, but there were some plays in App State where got a little chippy, and we wanted to talk. We made a big point with our guys last week of we get in this situation, we're not turning it into a one-on-one war of words and battle where we're talking. Don't even talk to them. Just go play. Go play between the whistles and whatnot. And then we obviously, I guess, mind tricked ourselves because we ended up being the team that didn't handle that the right way and lost our composure. So we just continue to teach and coach off of it and make sure our guys understand what we expect and what's acceptable and not acceptable. And, in our team meeting on Sunday, I showed some of those clips of those penalties you're talking about. I mean, penalties are going to happen during the play. I mean, it's football. There's some things that are just going to happen and you live with. It's the pre-snap and post-snap stuff that make you want to throw up as a coach. So we got to get better at that. And I'm 2 weeks in a row I've said it, and hopefully we'll be better this week.
Shane, you mentioned you spent some time with the defense earlier today. Have you noticed amongst the defensive line, the big names that you guys have there, the challenge of them matching up with Georgia's offensive line? Have you noticed an uptick in enthusiasm and energy about that matchup on Saturday?
I think they know them. And to me, this, you watch the line of scrimmage in this game. I mean, this is going to be a big boy football game, and I know what their philosophy and mentality is at Georgia, and that's to line up and just run the ball down your throat, and they've got playmakers on the outside that are explosive. I mean, the running backs, they're deep. The receivers, I know they got some guys out, but they got some fantastic ones that can run. The freshman tight end, Bowers, is a weapon with his skill set and whatnot. So there's a lot of explosiveness all over that offense, but this game's going to be critical right there in that box at the line of scrimmage. It's our offensive line versus their front and their offensive line versus our defense. But I would hope that, we've got a bunch of guys on our team that are internally motivated, that the excitement that our defensive line had to play Georgia is the same that it was against Eastern Illinois and the same that it was against East Carolina, because they've been pretty good both weeks. And we don't want all of a sudden, okay, we're playing, we're more excited because it's Georgia. We should be excited to play every week. If you're a competitor, you want to go out there and dominate no matter who you're playing and have that energy. But certainly, our guys know East Carolina and Eastern Illinois didn't break the huddle with, 5-star recruits and 330-pound offensive linemen that are coming right at you, and what's coming. They're saying stop it. So it's a big challenge for our guys, but it's a big challenge for the entire defense. Like, we've got to do a great job tackling this week, not just those defensive linemen, but all 11 guys on the defense.
Shane, how much does it help your guys that you're coming off a game where you faced adversity from the opening kick until the closing kick by Parker? A lot of adversity, some of it self-inflicted, but you're able to overcome it. How much of that do you think can help you against a team like Georgia, and especially the atmosphere in Athens of the SEC opener?
Yeah, I would hope a lot, Rick. I mean, you write it down before the game. Here's all the things to do to lose the football game, and I think we checked them all off on Saturday. Give up a huge play on the first play of the game to get the crowd into it. Turn the ball over, 3 times in the first half. Have some dumb penalties. On and on and on, But we, having said all that, we overcame all that. We didn't play great. East Carolina had a lot to do with that, sure. But we didn't play great. But we found a way to overcome it and still win on the road in a place that a lot of teams have gone in there and gotten beat. NC State, UNC, Virginia Tech, and we overcame that and found a way to win. So certainly we understand there's going to be 50,000 more fans in the stands than what there were on Saturday. It's going to be under the lights. There's going to be 5-star recruits all over the field for the team in red. But certainly from a mental standpoint, doing what we did last week does nothing but help us. But we also need to understand if we go out there and play that way like we did against East Carolina and get off to the start that we did against East Carolina, it probably it's not going to end well. We've got to get off to a better start and play a whole lot better. That's for sure.
Shane, Zeb is from that neck of that woods in Georgia. Have you and him talked at all about just kind of what it means to go back to the area, play in that area, or do you have a sense of what it might mean to him?
Yeah, I haven't talked to him this week about it. I was in the quarterback meeting this morning, but it was all football. But when he decided that he wanted to come back out and play, when he and I were having those conversations, one of the things he did mention was how cool it would be to be able to go back to play in Sanford Stadium in the town that he went to high school in and his family lives in. And so certainly it'll be extra excitement for him, sentimental, whatever you want to call it, going back in there. But he's also, smart enough to understand he has a job to do and is focused on that and worrying about what he can control. But, it is a pretty cool story going back to Athens, and would be an even cooler story if he's able to go in there and play well. That's what he wants, and that's what he's working for or working towards right now.
Obviously, there are a lot of good high school players in the state of Georgia every year, and Georgia usually has kind of the pick of the litter, so to speak. What's it like recruiting against those guys in that state, whether it's here or Oklahoma, Virginia Tech, and how challenging can it be to compete with them that way?
No, it's challenging for sure. It's such a big state, and there's so many players. And Kirby used to say this when I worked for him, that they can only take 25 a year. And in his mind, Kirby's mind, and rightfully so, you better make sure from Georgia's standpoint, they better make sure, because he used to say it, that you're taking the right ones. Because those guys that you decide not to take, they're going to South Carolina, they're going to Florida, they're going to Auburn, they're going to Tennessee, wherever. So there's a lot of great players. We're going to get in there and battle them. We have a fantastic place to sell here from an academic standpoint, from a city to live in, the facility, the opportunity to do something special here. And come win an SEC championship. We have a lot to sell here that they, that it's a little bit different than maybe what they're selling. But there's a lot of great players, and we're going to battle them for all of them and make it hard for young men to tell us no. We're going to be all over the state recruiting on Friday. Of the top players in the state of Georgia for this year and next year, there's a pretty good chance that there's going to be a South Carolina coach in your school on Friday afternoon and Friday night at your game. And that'll always be a critical area for us. There's so many fantastic players that have come out of Georgia that have been major contributors here and will continue to be going forward, along with the state of South Carolina and the surrounding areas. But it's such a great state for high school football, Georgia is, and we'll always recruit it heavily.
Shane, I think you touched on it a little bit Sunday with ECU stacking the box and what kind of a challenge that presents when you look at Georgia and kind of the physicality they do have up front. How do you go about attacking that in the run game when you do have a stacked box? Is it a matter of, Zeb obviously connected on a few more longer throws. Is it a matter of just opening things up? Is it a matter of just beating a guy one-on-one in front of you? Or what kind of goes into that?
Yeah, no, good thought or good question. We've got to be able to execute our offense no matter what, the defense is doing. It's not like we got out there on Saturday and it was like, oh, my God, they're doing this. How do we adjust? It's just a guy here, a guy there, and we got to be more consistent. We've got to be good about what we're asking our guys to do. There may be some run schemes that we like that maybe we aren't great at executing, so we've certainly got to continue to look at that. You've got to be able to, if teams are going to do that, which they're going to continue to do against us, you've got to be able to throw the football, which we did. It was a fantastic job by Zeb on the the deep ball to Josh down the sideline and some of those other throws. And then we've got to be able to sustain blocks and finish plays, and that's what we did a better job of as the game went on, was just leaning on East Carolina and finishing plays and covering them up. And then at the end of the day, I mean, we got SEC running backs. I mean, we can't block them all. We're going to do our best to get a hat on a hat, but at some point you're going to have to make somebody miss. And there were times on Saturday where we had a running back lost a one-on-one battle versus a defensive back in the open field or in the hole, and there were some times that we certainly, won those battles as well. So it's a combination, but I've told you guys before, I mean, we want a balanced offense, and that's not necessarily 50-50. It's the ability to run when you got to run and the ability to throw when you got to throw. And saw signs of that on Saturday. We've got to be a lot better going forward. There's no question about it, but did see signs of it.
Yeah, with the secondary, are you surprised at all at how well they've played so far? And where does some of that credit go? Is it Clayton White's scheme, Torian Gray's coaching, personnel just being a little bit underrated, but they seem like they've made a lot of plays?
Yeah, knock on wood. They've been really good, really, really good. And I don't think surprised. I know I'm not surprised. Just seeing them during preseason camp, and that was preseason camp without a healthy Cam Smith. But just seeing, Foster and Roderick and Dickerson and Dial and Spalding and Rush and those guys as they were making plays throughout preseason. Then you get Cam back. They're doing a great job. And obviously the level of competition goes up this week because they've got some explosive playmakers on offense, like I said, but really impressed with the way that our defensive backs are playing. They're playing hard. They're doing a great job of tackling. They're winning a lot of 50-50 balls, and credit them for one. Certainly credit, Coach Gray. I feel like he's the best defensive backs coach in the country. I saw what he did when we worked together at Virginia Tech over the years, and he's got NFL experience. He does a great job of just teaching and coaching and making sure our defensive backs understand how offenses are trying to attack them and studying formations and wide receiver splits and all that. And then certainly, Clayton White as well. Our defense has been fantastic the last 2 weeks. And I'm excited to watch them play on Saturday night, excited to watch them continue to evolve as the year goes on. So Clayton's put together a great scheme, and credit those guys up front, the guys that Mike Peterson and Jimmy coach as well, because they're doing a great job of affecting quarterbacks, and it all works together, and we're going to need all 11 on Saturday night to stop the run and the pass.
Shane, it seems like you probably have studied as much as anyone how head football coaches go about their business. How would you describe your sideline role during games? Are you strategizing? Are you consoling and encouraging players? You working refs? How would you just generally describe that?
Consoling myself at times Saturday too. A little bit of all that, to be honest with you. I realize as the head coach that all eyes are on me. So I think it's critical that I do a try and I'm pretty even keeled by nature, but just trying to stay steady and not emotional and blowing a gasket over there every time something goes bad. But just trying to stay under control. When the offense is on the field, I'm on the headphones, talking with those guys. I'm not trying to micromanage stuff and tell everybody what to do, but we're certainly talking when the offense finishes the series. I may be on the phone with the offense talking about the next series or things that just happened. When the defense is on the field, I'm on the defensive line with Clayton and his guys, listening and talking. Certainly any situation that comes up, I'm trying to stay one step ahead on, okay, it's third down, here's what we may do potentially on fourth down, or I really try and spend a lot of time during the week preparing to manage the clock and make decisions like that, and studying other situations across college football. So it's trying to just manage the game, have an ear for the offense, an ear for the defense, being able to chime in at times about maybe think about this next series, or hey Clayton, let's be ready for this. They haven't shown that yet, that type stuff, and then certainly staying engaged with the players as well, and just bouncing around the sideline and just trying to be, positive and real about where we are. So I think, each game is different. Eastern Illinois was a little bit more fun and less stressful. East Carolina, there was a lot of, decision making that was going on throughout the game, timeout usage, third down, fourth down, what you're doing, stuff like that. So every game's different, but just trying to stay one step ahead, but also help all three coordinators and communicate with, when I say three coordinators, communicate with Pete Limbo as well with everything going on from a special team standpoint.
Shane, you obviously mentioned going up against Georgia's offensive line. How do you maybe mimic that in practice? What is the strategy there? And from a scouting team perspective, who's mimicking Zamir White and just the stress that he has to cause on a defense?
Yeah, good question. It's hard when, Georgia's got running backs that try and run through you and out the other side every time they run the football. And they've got offensive linemen that are, 330-plus pounds over there that can move and are athletic. And, when I was over there with a lot of them, and Jamari and John Fitzpatrick, the tight end, Camarda, the punter. So, there's a lot of them that I saw, up close and personal. Schaefer. So I know how athletic and physical those offensive linemen are, without a doubt. So it's tough in practice. Part of it in practice is we do a lot of good on good, meaning our first offensive line versus our first defensive line. We do that on Tuesdays and Wednesdays in practice as well. So we try and make that as physical and real as it can be, for sure. In practice this week, we've kind of got a host of guys. I think Rashad Amos actually was helping out today as Zamir White. He was bouncing back and forth between the offense and then helping the defense as well. So Rashad did a good job of that, but then you also got other running backs that you got to, mimic as well, Cook and Milton and the whole crew. So pretty much all of our running backs have a hand in that on the scout team, except Kevin, Juju, Zaquandre, and Marshawn. Every other running back is running through there. But really, it's just making sure that on the scout team against our defense, every time we run the football, that we're telling our linebackers and defensive linemen, make the tackle and thud him up, but then let the guy run, because we want to make sure that we've got defensive backs and everybody else coming to finish that play as well, because we need all 11 to be involved in stopping the run on Saturday night.